Okay, so everyone wants to know the secret to crushing their goals, right? Well, today, that's
Mm.
exactly what we're diving into.
We've all got those dreams and ambitions, things we want to achieve, but sometimes it feels like a mountain, doesn't it?
It totally does.
Mm.
I mean, how many times have we said, this is the year I'm finally going to, and then, life happens.
Well, that's where the seven-step process we're going to unpack comes in. And it's not just some vague self-help stuff. It's actually super practical and applicable to pretty much any goal you can think of.
That's what we're all about here on the deep dive, right? Actionable stuff, not just motivational fluff.
Exactly. No matter what you're aiming for, whether it's writing a book, starting a business, learning to play the ukulele, this framework can help you get there.
All right, so let's break it down. Step one, and I feel like we hear this a lot, but it's setting SMART goals.
Yeah, and it's important to remember this isn't just some trendy acronym. It's actually like the foundation for the whole process.
So SMART,
Yeah.
specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
I think where people often go wrong is they skip over like the achievable part. They set this huge, overwhelming goal, and then they get discouraged when they don't see immediate results.
Oh, I've totally been there. It's like setting yourself up for failure before you even start.
It's like saying, I'm going to run a marathon when you haven't even, put on your running shoes in a year.
So instead of that, what would be a smart way to approach a goal like, let's say, wanting to learn a new language?
Okay, so instead of saying, I'm going to be fluent in Italian, which is super vague and daunting, a smart goal might be, I'm going to have a 10-minute conversation with a native Italian speaker in 3 months.
Okay, so that's specific. You could definitely measure that. It's achievable, it's relevant to your goal, and it has a clear time frame. I like it.
Exactly. So now you've got your SMART goal, but it still feels kind of big, right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, how do I actually get from here to that conversation with a native speaker?
That's where step 2 comes in, breaking it down.
All right, so break it down for me. What does that actually look like?
Think of it like this. You wouldn't try to eat an entire cake in one bite.
That sounds messy. And also, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but yeah, not the most efficient strategy.
Exactly. So you cut it into slices. Same thing with your goal. You break it down into smaller, more manageable steps.
So if my goal is to write a book, for example, instead of just staring at a blank page and feeling overwhelmed, I might break it down into like writing a chapter a week or something.
Exactly. Or even smaller than that. Maybe it's, I'm going to write for 30 minutes every day. The key is finding a chunk that feels doable and then sticking to it consistently.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've broken our big goal into smaller bites. What's next?
Step 3 is all about making a plan.
This is where things start to get real, huh?
Yep, this is where you move from just thinking about your goal to actually taking action.
And the source really emphasized that it doesn't have to be anything fancy, right? It's not about creating this elaborate color-coded spreadsheet.
Exactly. It could be as simple as a list on a piece of paper. The key is to actually write down those steps you've identified.
Because if it's just floating around in your head, it's easy to forget about it or to get sidetracked.
Totally. Writing it down makes it concrete. And then the next part of this step is scheduling it.
The source called this putting it on your calendar and making it non-negotiable, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, it's about treating your goal with the same seriousness as you would any other important appointment.
Because if you don't make time for it, it's just not going to happen, right?
Right. It's easy to let those 30 minutes of writing time slip away if you don't actually block it out on your calendar.
So we've got our SMART goal, we've broken it down, we have a plan, and now we're actually putting in the work. Step 4 is all about tracking progress.
This step is so important because it helps you stay motivated and accountable.
Because if you can see that you're actually moving forward, even if it's just a little bit at a time, it keeps you going, right?
Exactly. And it also allows you to adjust course if necessary. Maybe that 30 minutes of writing every day isn't realistic, so you adjust it to 15 minutes. The key is to be flexible and to use the data you're gathering to refine your approach.
And the source mentioned different ways to track progress, like using a journal or an app.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution here. It really depends on what works best for you.
Some people are really visual, so they might like to use a chart or a graph to track their progress.
Others might prefer a more simple approach, like just marking off days on a calendar.
I think the important thing is to find a method that you'll actually stick with. If it feels like a chore, you're less likely to do it.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about the real challenge, which is staying motivated.
Step 5.
Eh.
Because let's be honest, this is where a lot of us stumble.
We all hit those points where we just don't feel like it anymore.
So how do we push through those moments?
One powerful technique is visualization. Imagine yourself achieving your goal. What will it feel like? How will your life be different?
So if my goal is to, write and publish a book, I might imagine myself holding that finished book in my hands, signing copies for readers, maybe even seeing it on a bestseller list.
Exact. That feeling of accomplishment, that's what you're tapping into.
And the source also mentions celebrating small wins, which I think is so important.
Yeah, it's easy to get so focused on the end goal that we forget to acknowledge those little victories along the way.
Like, if my goal is to run a 5K, I might celebrate running a mile without stopping for the first time.
Those small celebrations reinforce the positive behavior and help you build momentum.
And they remind you that you're capable of achieving what you set out to do.
Now, we all know that even with the best plan and the most motivation, there are going to be obstacles along the way.
Step 6. The obstacle course. This is where things get real.
And this is where your problem-solving skills come in.
The source really emphasized the importance of being flexible, of being willing to adjust your plan as needed.
Because things rarely go exactly according to plan, right?
And ever, life throws you curveballs.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about being persistent and being able to adapt when those challenges inevitably arise.
So you hit a roadblock. What do you do?
First, don't panic. Take a step back and assess the situation.
What's causing the problem?
Once you've identified the root cause, you can start brainstorming solutions.
Maybe you need to adjust your timeline, or maybe you need to break down the problem into even smaller steps.
The key is to be proactive and to see obstacles not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and grow.
All right, so we've made it through the obstacle course, and now we're at the finish line. Step 7, which is, of course, to celebrate.
Yes, this step is so often overlooked, but it's crucial.
Because we work so hard towards these goals, and then we achieve them, and we're already on to the next thing.
Exactly. We forget to take a moment and just appreciate how far we've come.
So what does celebration look like in the context of goal achievement?
It's not just about having a party or buying yourself a gift. It's about acknowledging your accomplishment and reflecting on the journey.
What did you learn along the way?
What challenges did you overcome?
What are you proud of?
Taking the time to answer those questions not only allows you to savor the moment, but also helps you identify strategies that worked well.
So you can apply those lessons to future goals.
Exactly. And that's it. That's your 7-step deep dive into goal crushing.
So remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
And the key takeaway is to start taking action today.
Even a small step in the right direction can make all the difference.
We've focused on individual goals today, but what if you applied this process to something bigger, like a team project at work?
Or even like a community initiative.
Think about the impact you could have.
So how are you going to use these steps to crush your goals? We'd love to hear about it.
Share your experiences, and let's keep the conversation going.
All right, until next time, keep crushing it.
See ya!